Okay, and we are ready to begin when you are ready. Oh, it looks like you're mute. Yeah.
That would help. Yes, welcome. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the online version of today's State Aviation Board meeting. Sorry we cannot be in LeGrand. I think this year, just fire season and concerns about weather and smoke, we will reschedule to visit LeGrand, but for right now, I think this was our best way to meet. Alexis, can you call the roll for today's meeting?
Yes. Just quickly for guests online, please use the raise hand function or type your name in the chat if you'd like to make a public comment during the public comment section. So let's see. Bill Gropp.
Here.
Jim Knight.
Here.
Sarah Lucas.
Present.
Steve Nagy.
Here.
Brian Prang.
Present. Yes.
Present. Okay. Jeff Pritchard let us know that he's going to be arriving late. Is he excused in the meantime?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then Catherine is also absent. Is she excused?
Yes.
Okay. And that would conclude our roll call.
Thank you. Now's the time for public comment. We will set aside 15 minutes for those who have signed up. If speakers could limit their time to 2 minutes each. And Alexis, do we have anybody who has signed up for public comment?
Yes, it does look like we did. I do also want to acknowledge that we did receive written public comment from Robin at Friends of Pacific City. Those comments were forwarded onto the board for their review. It
Yes.
looks like Becky Breckenridge from OPA. Let me give you access, Becky, one moment. Okay, it looks like you should now have access. Please state your name for the record.
Hi, good morning. Becky Breckenridge with Oregon Pilots Association. I just really wanted to thank Tony Beach and Alexis for showing up at Milano Airport yesterday and talking with our group concerning the future plans for the FBO there. And we're really grateful that you heard us and that you're willing to dialogue with us concerning the possible demolition of the building. So anyway, we just wanted to thank you and to say that we will continue our end of figuring out options and solutions, and we'll be totally in touch with you guys about this in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. So if you would like to make a public comment, you can use the raise hand function or type your name in the chat. I'll just give it just another minute or so here for anybody that would like to sign up for public comment.
And I'll just say thank you for that previous comment. It's always good to hear when ODAV staff outreaches with our airports and their airport members.
Oh, it looks like we have another raised hand. Brian Joseph State Airport. Give me one moment to allow your mic. Okay, and you should now have access to your mic, Brian. Please state your name for the record.
Brian Rand.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just would like to make a quick comment. Sorry, I'm right in the middle of work. So as you guys know, looks like we're losing fuel for the Joseph State Airport. I would just like to emphasize to the board how important of a area this is to have fuel at one of your state airports. We're up here in the corner. We're away from everybody else to where we do have another airport that's 4 miles away that does provide fuel. But if their fuel goes down, then for our county, we have no other option, no other fuel. To me, it's a big safety issue. There should be some way for the state to provide fuel at Joseph State. And, you know, I would just like to emphasize for the board to really think about uh, the fuel option here at Joseph State and to be able to come up with an alternative, some funding or raise the price of fuel, whatever is needed to be able to keep the fuel at Joseph State. And, you know, sorry, I'm in the middle of work. I'm a little shorthanded preparing a statement, but I just wanted to get something on to you guys real quick. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for those comments.
Okay, and I'm just gonna double check the chat one more time. Check for any raised hands. Okay, I am seeing no more raised hands and I don't see any names in the chat. So that would conclude our public comment section.
Thank you. And just acknowledging, yes, I think we all received the comments from Pacific City as well as part of our board packet. So thank you. Next on the agenda, we have our finance manager update with Kristen. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, let me just share my screen here. Okay, so here we go. Good morning, Aviation Board. So today I'm going to go over a staff update, the director's performance review, an update on our legislative concept, and then an update on the budget process. So first of all, our staff update. This is Jerry, our aircraft registration specialist, and she's going to be retiring at the end of this month. And Jerry has been with us for over 3 years, and she has done a phenomenal job with us. I just want to give a shout out to her on the project she's been working on, an unregistered aircraft project, where she works really hard to make sure that those who should be registered in Oregon are. And so she has several databases that she checks, including the FAA database, to make sure that if anyone is in Oregon and they should be registered, that they are. And so she sent out over 1,630 letters to those aircraft owners who are not registered in Oregon and should be. And she's collected over $420,000 of extra revenue for the department since she's been here while she's been working on that project. So she's done a phenomenal job, and we really will miss her at the end of this month when she's leaving. So, and unfortunately, this is one of the positions that we did have to put into the budget cuts in the agency request budget, not because we don't need this position. It was chosen simply because it will be vacant, and we didn't want to cut any positions that were not vacant. So yes, we will be missing Jerry. So the director's performance review. So August is the month for Kenji's performance review. And so this happens every 2 years. And the process is put together by DAS, Chief Human Resource Office. And so Kenji will be evaluated on leadership, operation execution, and cultural values. And so I want the board to look out for a survey that you'll be getting next week on Kenji. So it has a lot of required questions from DAS, and then we've added some questions too. And it's not only going out to the board, it's going out to all of our staff, and then several people who work with Kenji directly and some of our stakeholders. And so the board will hear back on the results of that survey. You'll have a couple of weeks to get it done, but please make sure you look out for that in your emails and get that done as soon as you can. So the budget development, here is an update of where we're at in the process. So we turned in our agency request budget at the end of July. So we just turned that in. The board got to see that at the last meeting and vote on that. And then we had another revenue work group meeting just this week, and there'll be more of those. And then we have a couple more chances to reconcile our budget that we have right now. And then we'll have our final budget in June of 2027. And I'll go into more detail about the budget reconciliation later on in the presentation. So this is the legislative concept timeline. So in late June, our one legislative concept was approved by DAS in the governor's office. And so at the last meeting, the board saw that concept and voted on that and changed it a little bit. So I'll go into more detail on that as well. So right now I'm working with the Legislative Council to draft the bill. So I've sent them the board's changes and they're working on drafting that right now. And so we'll be drafting that from now through October 2nd. And then November 9th is when the final legislative concept drafts are due. So if the board wants any more changes to that draft, that could be something that we would need to know by the next board meeting. At the end of November, the governor's office reviews the legislative concept, and if it's approved, it'll go to pre-session filing. And then that bill will work through the legislative session from February to June of 2027. And so if that bill is passed, then that will go into our budget. So this legislative concept would reduce those budget cuts if it is passed. Okay, and here is a little more detail of the changes that the board approved at the last meeting. So on the left, we have what our current split is. So just as a review, this is the 2-cent jet fuel and the 2-cent avgas tax. And these are the amounts after 5% is withheld for administration. So currently the split is core gets 75%. So this is the forecast based on next biennium. Core would have gotten about 5.9 million. SOAR a little under 2 million. So the first proposed legislative concept was for core to get 25%, SOAR to get 25%, and operations to get 50%. And then the board changed that a little bit, approved and voted on that to where core will receive 40%. So it's a little over $3 million. SOAR will receive 20%. So about 1.56 million, and then operations will receive 40%. So also a little over 3 million. And then so you can see here the difference between what it currently is and what the board voted on. So core is down 35% from the original, so about 2.78 million. SOAR is down 5%, so a little under 400,000. And then ops is up 40%, so a little over $3 million. And just as a review, $3 million was the revenue shortfall. So that gets us just a little bit over that revenue shortfall that we talked about at the last meeting. So this is a review of the agency request budget that we talked about at the last meeting. So we have the revenue shortfall package. Then we have POP 100 for the GA entitlement projects, and then POP 103 for Pacific City. And the board did vote on and approve the budget, but we did have the caveat that the board wanted to revisit the Pacific City POP at a future board meeting to determine if they wanted to make changes. So what I would recommend is at the next board meeting, we put a vote for the Pacific City POP on the agenda. Let's see. Okay, so, and I'll go into a little bit more of that about the budget reconcile process in a later slide. But just as a review, the budget cuts and redirection, we had $1 million, almost 1 million, I should say, of revenue redirection from SOAR to operations. And then we had 1.7 million in budget cuts to mostly operations and a little bit to aircraft registration. And the board did ask me to report back on how much of these budget cuts could be funded by SOAR. And so just as a review, the SOAR funds can be used for state-owned airport projects, and they are for the purposes of safety improvements, including maintenance and infrastructure projects. So what I did was I went through the list of all of our budget cuts to see which of those could be applied to the purposes of SOAR. So it looks like the vehicle and equipments at airports could be applied. For in-state travel, the amount of in-state travel that was for airport maintenance could be applied. Facility maintenance, so safety reports or safety repairs, I'm sorry, at state-owned airports. Painting airport pavements and small equipment at airports. And so these numbers are based on what we have in the budget and based on our actuals from the current biennium. So of course, they're not an exact science, but it's our best estimates of about, a little over 353,000 of those $1.7 million cuts could potentially be funded by SOAR. The rest of those would not qualify, so they would just have to remain as budget cuts. So the next budget reconcile. So we have an analysis reconcile. This happens in fall. And so we work with DAS, Chief Financial Office, on this. So if the board would like to make any changes to the budget, including any changes to the POP or anything else, I would recommend a vote in the next meeting. And that would give me time to work with DAS to make that change in the budget. But ultimately, it is a board decision. But we will put that on the September board meeting, is a vote for that. Because I believe how it was worded, the board did want to revisit Pacific City. So I feel like we should put that on the agenda for discussion and a vote, whether the board wants to keep it on in the budget or remove it from the budget. I would recommend we put that in the next meeting. And so that is all I had for you. Do you have any questions?
Questions from anyone? And Kenji, I don't know if you want to join in. As we talked about earlier, there was a meeting with a public meeting with interested stakeholders, some legislators, about revenue enhancement and revenue opportunities for the department going forward. And Senator Nash, I believe, was a participant, as well as Rep. McLean, and she had very good insight into this. That the kind of the package that has been put forward gives kind of a way to bridge over the next biennium, and gives the agency and those of us interested in the future of the agency an opportunity to really dig into how to improve the overall revenue and diversify that, whether it's from fuel flow or fuel taxes increases, whether that's from registration, whether that's from landing fees and other sources that we haven't even maybe talked about, or that were kind of explored but not as in depth. And so I thought her comments were really great in that the work that I think that we did as a board last month to kind of look at a legislative concept that gets the board, or gets the agency, ODAV, through the next biennium. It's not a long-term solution. It is a way to plug a funding gap in a 2-year period that gives all of us some time to really look at a diversified and resilient funding strategy for the agency. So I thought her comments were really great in that meeting. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Chair Nagy, thank you so much. Yeah, so it was a very productive meeting, and I think it's going to spur us to take a really deep dive in terms of trying to figure out a completely new funding structure, right? It might include some funding from that are current resources, but just looking at overall and prepping the funding strategy that's, as Steve said, more resilient and accounts for what's coming up next, right? So just taking a deeper dive and perhaps even reimagining the way the agency is funded. So we have an opportunity. We have that runway now. And as long as we get this LC through, which hopefully it won't be a hard lift, just because it doesn't require a supermajority in the legislature, but it is temporary, as Steve said, and it is just a stopgap measure that'll get us enough time to really rethink through things, so we can get everybody on board in terms of what this new form will take, and get buy-in from everybody, because I think that's really, really important. Not everybody will be happy, but at the same time, well, we might be able to make everybody happy if everybody thinks that they're contributing to the system. So there's a lot of opportunity, and there's some very strong impetus from both Chair McLean and Senator Nash and everybody in the room. We get it, that it is very important and it needs to get done. So I think over the next year and a half or so, we can really make that push, have more meetings, maybe. And actually, Chair McLean said, hey, you need to be meeting every month. So I know, well, actually, some folks have already reached out to me and said, hey, let's set up some meetings and start talking. So that process is underway. And I'm really looking forward to so, uh, and Steve, thanks so much for your input because that was absolutely invaluable in terms of making sure that any sort of tax is broad-based or funding impacts everybody. So it's not just one cohort that's impacted directly and they're carrying all the water. So we're looking and I'm excited. So that's all I have to say. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just follow a good conversation with everyone that was participated, and certainly it's a public meeting. So if anybody else from the board wants to participate in future ones, I just felt the need. It was great. Airlines participated, OPA, other private members in the aviation community, and I think what was looked upon was, as Kenji said, trying to find a way to diversify the revenue stream so that it's not reliant on just one thing like fuel taxes on aircraft. Because if we move towards electrification, just as you move towards electrification in vehicles, you're going to be losing revenue on fuel taxes. The airlines pay a vast majority of the jet fuel tax, and it's already a expensive market in the Northwest for them to operate in. So there's many factors that kind of go into it. I think, as Kenji alluded to, not everyone is going to be happy because everybody's going to have to take up some slack in order to make up these funding things, whether it's in jet fuel taxes that increase over time, whether it's in registration fees or in avgas fees or taxes as well. So it's going to be spread. I think that was the message that I think everybody heard. The revenue shortfalls and the revenue opportunities need to be spread, but also looking at kind of the future of where things are going. So yeah, I think Brett McLean had a really great perspective that this gives us a little bit of time and takes the heat off of the state agency through this biennium. But as she mentioned, yeah, we need to keep our attention on this so that it doesn't get away from us and nothing has been made, no progress has been made over the next year. All right. Any other insights or comments on the budget process? All right. Thank you very much, Kristen.
Yeah, thank you.
If we'll move on from here, if Tony's on, we have the state airports manager update. I thought I saw, there you are, Tony. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Alrighty. I am going to apologize in advance because I'm probably going to take more than 15 minutes, but it has been so busy. There's been a lot going on. I'm trying to share my screen here, and I'm very happy to share everything that's been going on for the last couple months. So the biggest news is that yesterday, the Oak Ridge State Airport reopened as the runway rehab project reached completion. And so we were out there just late yesterday afternoon getting that airport inspected, punch list walk, and reopening. So I've got a few photos and details to share about that. And first of all, the project turned out great. The airport's beautiful. I'm going to give a shout out to the folks at Century West and to Markham and Sons, the contractor for their work on this project. We also look forward to gathering folks out at the airport and getting a photo opportunity and sharing more details through a press release at a later date. The airport reopened with a wider runway. It's now 50 feet wide, and the declared distances are shown below. So this information is published via NOTAM until we can get it updated in the master record and get the charts updated. So that information is now published. And Sarah, do you have a question?
Just real quick, what were the declared distances prior to this project?
Um, you know what? I'd have to go find what the previous distances were, but it's the runway is actually a little bit longer, I believe, than what it was before, partially due to some of the safety air grading that we were able to do, and but it is some of the declared distances are going to be a little bit shorter, just to get that full safety area on one end. So let's see, wider runway declared distances, and just as a little reference, this is the before. This is what that runway, and with our single taxiway connector and the extent of the cracking and worn pavement that we had on the apron, and on the runway as well. You can see some of the patchwork that we've had to do from damage from prior firefighting activity, and now with the fully repaved runway, we've improved the turnaround on the runway 9 end. We've relocated and improved the midfield turnaround, and then we have 2 taxiway connectors to the runway, improving just access, and we've built 4 of these concrete hard stands, to better serve the heavy firefighting aircraft and heavy equipment to prevent that excessive wear on the softer asphalt. So the airport is better equipped to handle the firefighting activity, and is set up, for decades of service. You can also see we have other improvements. The reflectors, we have a full suite of airfield reflectors. There's no electricity, at least hardwired electricity out on the airfield, but we do have a suite of reflectors, and we're also implementing these rubber mats. These are built by a company for airfields, and these mats are going to help keep vegetation away from the reflectors. And if you've ever tried to mow around, these or airfield lighting, they're frangible, and then you have to be really delicate around them. Otherwise, they snap, they break. And so this helps us get in and around the lights a lot more efficiently, which helps just our 2 staff, our 2 airport maintenance specialists, get in and get onto the next airport to keep on schedule with mowing in the very busy mowing season. So you can see on the right, a whole bunch of the reflectors on the runway, marking the threshold, the taxiway connectors. And you can also see this is the one, and we have a new supplemental windsock that's actually solar lighted. And then on the right, you can see the main windsock with the segmented circle. So we've added, and then this is from the other runway end on the other supplemental windsock. So this airport now has 3 solar lighted windsocks, because one of the main complaints we were getting at Oak Ridge was the windsock was too difficult to see or was not indicating accurately because of its location up near the trees, or just because this, it's such a challenging mountain airport that the winds can be kind of difficult to read. So now we have 3 windsocks, and they're all solar lighted. And then you can see the new, there's a brand new segmented circle as well around the primary windsock. And then the apron, of course, with all new pavement, all new tie downs, new markings. The airport just really turned out great, and we couldn't help but take another photo opportunity. And so this is Alexis, me. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Our operations specialist, Don Rich Creek, and then Mark and Tracy with Precision Approach Engineering. So again, huge shout out to them and everybody for making this project happen. But we are going to have a lot more information soon as we get that press release going. So this year has been a very busy year for firefighting already. It's very early in the season. Typically, we see firefighting activity later in the summer, starting around August or September. But fortunately, Oak Ridge wasn't needed yet for firefighting activity. We haven't had a lot of fires in that area, but we have had a lot of firefighting at other airports. So Chiloquin, we just closed it today. We've had other firefighting activity, but Chiloquin just closed today. Joseph has had a taxiway closure for firefighting activity for a few weeks now. And then Tokati is closed for firefighting activity as well. McKenzie Bridge is not closed, but there are several helicopters operating there. And then Condon reopened after a 12-day closure for the large fire in that part of the state. So a lot of activity. We do encourage pilots to check NOTAMs and look for work in progress or closures because those can change regularly. But a lot of use. And yeah, Steve, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Tony. I appreciate this slide. Is that use a combination of Oregon Forestry Department and U.S. Forest Service, or do we know which ones are utilizing our airports the most?
Yeah, I think these are all contracted through the U.S. Forest Service.
Okay. Thank you.
Alrighty. So if you didn't have a chance to make it out to some of the other events that I mentioned in our last board meeting, we had the Wings and Wheels event at the Cottage Grove State Airport in June. We had the Wallowa County Fly-In in July, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it either. But it's not too late to catch a great event at the Wings over Willamette, the Fly-In and Stoll event at the Independence State Airport coming up here on the 22nd and 23rd of August. So I was there last year, really great event, and I look forward to attending again this year. I also want to give a big shout out to the 99s for their volunteer service. They came out and painted the Prospect script at the Prospect State Airport, and it looks great. They sent over a few photos of their service out there, and really appreciate it. That apron was just repaved last summer as part of that airfield project. And our staff went out and painted the tie downs, not just painted, but actually set all the tie down anchors, drilled the holes and got everything set there, and painted all the yellow markings. But the 99s came in and got that Prospect script down. So that's really a huge help, and we appreciate their time and work they've done out there. We're still in full swing on mowing season, and just a few photos out here at Toledo, Nehalem Bay, and I believe this was Wasco on the right. Very dry conditions, and the guys came back and said, I think we're done mowing out there until the fall again. So, but we are continuing to keep up on mowing, and right now we're just kind of in cleanup mode, catching up on some of the carrot that's grown up, all the Queen Anne's lace and everything. But despite having, well, that's my next slide. Let me get through this part first. We do again encourage pilots to check NOTAMs, check for work in progress, because our guys are out all over the state of Oregon, all 28 airports. They can be mowing at Lebanon one day and then over at Alkali Lake or McDermott the next. So please check NOTAMs and just be careful, keep things safe for the community and for our staff as well.
Tony,
And of course, yeah.
quick thing for everybody. They love us so much. At Bandon, one of the airport tenants, didn't she hug Marlon and said, "Don't leave, don't leave"?
Yes, there was it wasn't a tenant, but there was somebody from that community that was begging our staff to stay and keep doing the good work they do. So always good to hear that kind of response from the community, and we of course have to spread our very limited resources to 28 airports all over the state of Oregon, but we always appreciate the welcome and that kind of response. And then of course, I mentioned this back in June, but we did get ahead this year with a very dry spring, but we have been seeing mowings taking a little longer than usual just because we are down some of our mowing equipment that we normally use. So with limited equipment, we're getting around doing everything we can, but it's taking a little bit longer, but we appreciate the patience from all of our communities. And then it's also been a very busy year with painting. We've had a bunch of projects that have taken on a lot of the painting, but at those airports, they're not painting everything on the airfield. So our staff are coming in and basically catching up on what's not touched. And they're also fully painting airports like, little things at Alkali Lake or Rome. We've had volunteers go out and paint some of the tight-on areas, and the Owyhee Reservoir State Airport, that's the Idaho Aviation Association. So big shout out to them. And then staff are also painting at Tokatee, Wakanda Beach, and let's see. Again, just the parts that are not included at projects like Lebanon and Condon, Joseph. So a lot of work goes into all of that on top of the very busy mowing schedule. And just as a little bit of context, this is my screen. I track, what airports we've painted and when. And in the about 3.5 years that we acquired our new painting equipment, we've painted every single state airport. At least by the end of the season, we will have painted every single state airport. And we're keeping on about 3 to 4 year cycle to get every airport refreshed and avoid, the 12 to 15-year-old markings that are completely faded or basically obliterated that we were seeing before this. So a huge improvement in our level of service from our staff and in how we maintain our airports. But as Kristen just mentioned, with our costs and everything, it's a costly one as well. Yeah, Bill.
Hey, just a quick question. When you're repainting airports, is it predominantly just repainting over what's already there, or do we check with our engineering staff to make sure that the markings are up to date in spec code?
Yeah, both. So primarily just refreshing what we already have, but there have been instances where we've had to kind of rethink what markings have gone where. Independence is a great example of that, where we had some old markings around some kind of non-standard run-up areas or kind of bypass areas, and so we've changed the markings there, and then Lebanon as well. Yeah, so a little bit of both. So just a couple of quick photos. Alkali Lake, it's a small gravel strip way out in the desert in Central Oregon. And we have some tie-down tires, so they can be kind of hard to see. So we draw attention to those, as well as the windsock, the primary windsock. So this is a little bit before and after at the Alkali Airport. And then out at Lebanon as well, this was yesterday, or I'm sorry, this was just earlier this week. Staff painting at Lebanon the manager holding position markings at the runway, as well as on the apron at Lebanon. This picture was taken today. And then there's more. There's always more maintenance. And we had just out at Chiloquin just repainted the electrical building, but some critter came along and tried to find a nice warm place to nest. So we have a little bit more maintenance to do out there. And then on the right, this is at the Independence State Airport. We have a handful of airports with lighting, and we also try to stay on top of all the building maintenance for the electrical equipment. So lots of work to do, but that's on the list for this year as well. And then just related to the comments that we had earlier in this meeting, I don't always go into a lot of detail and stuff that that I'm working on. I like to give a big shout out to staff, but I do want to acknowledge, because it's been so busy, there's a ton going on. I wanted to call or bring attention to some of the big things that are changing or just updating at some of our airports, and some of the challenges and stuff that we're trying to work through. So as mentioned, the Joseph fuel suspension is a big one, and that obviously is a tough decision that we don't make lightly, and absolutely hear and understand the concerns from that community, and appreciate that input, because as soon as we can bring fuel back to that community, we absolutely will. So we'll continue to look at funding sources or other ways that we can make that operation a bit more sustainable. But as Kristen mentioned, we are looking at our operating budget and addressing a significant deficit. So unfortunately, a lot of these decisions are based there and around some other components as well.
Tony,
yeah.
do you want to really quickly talk about the reason with the fuel in terms of our additional costs on the regulatory side that was quite unexpected?
Right. Yeah, basically at the end of June, it was discovered that there's some permitting requirements that we were not meeting that we really should be meeting for an airport we're providing fuel at. And the cost to meet those requirements were rather significant. It was going to be over $20,000 in the first year, and then there's going to be an ongoing cost to maintain that permit requirement. Um, and that every so often there was going to be another, larger costs and staff time necessary to update things and keep everything current. So that combined with the very high cost of fuel lately, because the airport is so remote, the cost to deliver the fuel is high. And then we haven't seen a lot of fuel sales with our current fuel that we have, which is already below our new cost to replace it. So any higher we go on the fuel prices, that fuel is just going to be stagnant and it's not going to sell. So really, again, a tough decision, not something that we take lightly, but we'll continue to work through. And then just some other changes at Malino. The FBO is no longer providing fuel, and ODAV is taking over that fuel at the Malino State Airport. So we are working through just some administrative changes to get that transitioned over to us, and fuel's out of service, but it will be returned to service as soon as we can. And otherwise, we're trying to minimize any interruption, and fuel should be flowing as usual, and with some other improvements, including repairing the receipt printer. And thank you, Becky, for your comments on the Malino Pilot Lounge. Just a quick background: back in April this year, the board did approve a request for $25,000 to remove the quad hangar and the pilot lounge at Malino. These are both shown to be removed in the master plan. There was really good discussion from quite a large group of people out at Malino yesterday, and really appreciate their perspectives and input. The pilot lounge obviously is a well cherished and used building, so we're taking that input into consideration, and hopefully can work with OPA and other local groups on ways to kind of sustain that operation until we can find a more permanent replacement for that building. And then on the Pacific City issue, so we are planning to bring that topic in a lot more detail to the board in September. And we did have a very recent meeting with Tillamook County on some of the issues at Pacific City. And again, we're going to go into a lot more detail in September. I didn't exactly hear, what we were hoping to hear from the county as far as interest or next steps to support, protecting the airport and work toward addressing some of the safety issues. So again, go into a lot more detail here next month. And then it's been a very busy couple of weeks doing airport tours with state officials from our legislative fiscal office, our DAS fiscal officer as well. So as well as with folks from the ADO, we always welcome them to come down and visit our airports. Always appreciate having them out on the ground. So we have been traveling all over the state, visiting on quite a few of our airports and going over projects and other things that we're working on. And finally, in the background, work continues on the master plan, and we will be sharing more information on the Aurora master plan very soon. So we look forward to bringing that more information to the board very soon. Finally, a lot of project work is going on. We have a few updates here. The Oak Ridge runway reconstruction, of course, was just completed. We've completed our other surface seal projects at Chiloquin, Condon, and Joseph. Lebanon is going on as we speak, should be wrapping up in the next couple of days. And then Malino is starting on Monday, August 10th. We also will be sharing more information as we prepare to launch the Condon Master Plan. And then the Joseph AWAS, we just had a pre-construction meeting with the contractor this week, so we will be sharing more information on when that project's going to start. There shouldn't be too many airfield impacts to users out there, but that project will be starting very soon, as will the PAPIs for Independence. Work continues on the obstruction removal projects for the 4 airports listed, and the Milano hangar construction water line improvements. The water line is going to be starting a little bit later this summer, and then depending on when that project's completed, we may be looking at the hangar construction earlier next year. So usual shout out here to our Gov Delivery updates, and this is the best way to stay informed about all these projects. So go to our website, oregon.gov/aviation, and check for that blue box, click subscribe to ODAP emails, and be sure to choose the state airport that you're interested in, or all of them, and get updates for all of our projects and other updates that we have. And then you can always manage and update your subscription preferences or unsubscribe anytime. Yeah, Jim.
On my mic. Tony, I just want to tell you how appreciative I am and how remarkable it is that the quantity of work and the quality of work that you do with such little resource and so little amount of people. I'm astounded every time you give us one of these reports. I don't know where you all find the hours of the days to be able to do what you've accomplished, but I just want to say thank you very much on behalf of all of us and the users of our airports, that this is a great team. And I just want to say thank you, Tony.
Well, thank you, Jim. I really do appreciate that. And we're a small department of 15 people, and we all do everything we can every day for Oregonians and for the aviation community. So really appreciate that. And I owe so much of that to my staff as well. They're fantastic.
Good job.
Last update, and this is actually going to lead us into the next presentation on the VPD rules. We have not had a new VPD at Aurora since October 2025, and that's such a great thing that I'm happy to report on. It's never a job done, but absolutely worth giving a big shout out and appreciation to all the folks at Aurora for their efforts to help mitigate VPDs, from the through the fence property owners, the improvements they made on their airfields, to all the users, to our tenants on state property, for sharing outreach and following some of the new procedures with stop and wait, preventing piggybacking, going over the training that we've shared and provided for everybody, to just helping escort guests and meet deliveries at the gate. All those things help to mitigate VPDs. So really appreciate that. And I'm going to share a little more about this in a second, but we did go over the VPD issue in more depth in the September 2024 work session, and as part of our efforts to address some issues identified by the FAA. And we have published our training, so that's on our website. We've shared it with all the airport users. We've also developed a corrective action plan to help mitigate VPDs. Any questions before I move on to the next topic?
I will just echo Jim's comments that the ODAP maintenance and operations team cover a lot of ground and do a lot of things in a very short period here over this summer season, to do maintenance work, to do construction work. And so I too share my appreciation for your teams crisscrossing the state and doing the work, meeting, like you said, you were at Milano yesterday, meeting with folks. I think that's really indicative of the service that the agency is trying to provide to aviation and to the users of the system. So thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thank you. Alrighty. And are we ready to move on to the next topic?
Yes, thank you, Tony, for the update. We'll move on to the vote on a permanent rulemaking for violations and the penalties, the civil penalties for vehicle pedestrian deviations at Aurora State. And I believe you have a presentation to start with, correct?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Alrighty, so a quick background. I just mentioned how we presented more information on VPDs in the September 24 work session. And the issue of VPDs has been a topic of discussion since the tower opened back in 2015. But a lot of the recent discussion has revolved around a spike of incidents occurring since 2022. And we initiated a temporary rule back in 2022, and we got a lot of comments when we started the permanent rulemaking at that same time. And those comments were around, the need for some airfield improvements, around clarifying responsible parties in the rule, and for the state to implement a driver's training program. And so we've done those things. We have refreshed all the markings. We've added signage, sent a whole lot of outreach and education to people. We did clarify. We changed our rules and clarified the responsibility, or who is a responsible party that could be subject to the rules, and we've implemented that driver's training. The temporary rule was approved by the board here in February this year. And we held a rulemaking advisory committee and a public hearing on these rules here in July. And we sent out for this meeting the packet, which includes links to the recording for those meetings for the rulemaking committee and for the public hearing, as well as one written comment and then the other public comments that were provided during that public hearing. So all of that information is provided, and we also included the public notice with the rule language, and the permanent rules that I'm just going to share the presentation for here in a second. They are the same as the temporary rules that were approved earlier this year. So there were not any changes. We kept those pretty much the same. And so with that, I'm going to share my presentation. And because they're the same, I did go over this in a lot more detail back in February. And so I wasn't planning to go into too much detail, but feel free to stop me or ask any clarifying questions as I work through this presentation. So we have the need. And this is part of the notice that establishes the need and justification for the rule, and it's needed to address the safety issue of vehicle and pedestrian deviations occurring at the Aurora State Airport. I've mentioned before that the rule is needed because we don't have an intermediate action to address these short of basically terminating or threatening termination of lease or through the fence agreements. So we don't have any other recourse to be able to address these issues. And this rule would provide us that tool to help enforce that safety requirement of keeping people outside of the controlled movement area. And it is in response to some recent spikes that we had that were identified by the FAA, some significant number of VPDs that have occurred, and a growing trend from 2022 through 2025. And that despite some of the other considerable efforts we have made, the VPDs continue to increase at the airport. So a quick summary of these rules. The rule adopts Oregon Administrative Rule 738, 050, and 0005 on vehicle pedestrian deviations and civil penalties. That includes it establishes rules for the VPDs and civil penalties, includes definitions, conduct that is a vehicle pedestrian deviation. It explains who the responsible parties and civil penalties that may be imposed. It talks about contested cases, cases for multiple responsible parties, consideration for reducing or waiving civil penalties, and the civil penalty formula. It also amends Administrative Rule 738 140 0020, adding a violation, adding VPD as a violation for which a civil penalty may be imposed. And again, because these are unchanged, I was not planning to read through in great detail, but these are those same items. These are the rules that would be adopted. So I'm happy to answer any questions on these, but to save time, I was not going to read through everything. Sarah.
Good morning, Tony. Before we voted on this, I just wanted to thank you for your time on this project, and also to Bill, because I know Bill served on the RAC, and I did listen to the recordings and read the submitted public testimony on this. I do believe that the training program has had a positive effect, but I liken that to the carrot, and sometimes you also need a stick. So to put it in short terms, I am very supportive of this. Even though there are concerns, I think they're somewhat unfounded. My hope is that we won't actually have to use this, and this trend will continue. So that's all I wanted to say before we voted.
Thank you, Sarah. And I also want to share your sentiments there too. Thanking Bill for his participation on the RAC, and our tenants who have also participated on the RAC, as well as took the time to join the public hearing and offer their comments. I appreciate their comments and perspectives. And I also agree with you that we haven't had to issue any fines yet, and we want to keep it that way. We do not want to be issuing civil penalties, but I do agree that having the tool as a resource for us is an important one. Alrighty. Any other questions? Jim.
Tony, maybe for the sake of those who are listening in, can you talk about the process really quick? If a person is found in violation, is there first a warning, or are we going directly to penalties?
The process would first go to a warning. If the violation is so excessive or egregious, or with disregard to safety or recklessness, then it's possible that a penalty of up to $2,500 could be issued per occurrence.
So if there's a verbal warning, do you keep track of those verbal warnings so that there's a record that we've talked about this issue before implementation of penalties?
Absolutely. Yep.
Terrific.
Yep.
Thank you.
All righty. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions or concerns from board members? I just want to, before we take a vote on this, I just want to thank, this is a long-term process. I think all of us on the board were here in 2024, or maybe maybe Brian's new, but I think with the agencies and with the staff's participation, identified this issue. FAA identified this issue as needing resolution at the airport. We worked with with staff to make sure that they were taking this up with the tenants. I think that effort you see now with almost a year of deviation and pedestrian and vehicle deviation free operations at the airport. That's great. But I think also, to reiterate Sarah's point, you need the carrot, which is what they've been doing a lot with tenants, a lot of training, a lot of great effort by tenants. This doesn't happen without that good effort by the users and tenants of the airport. But you also need the stick for those who will not follow rules. And so I think we're following up here after this 2-year period of rulemaking, of outreach, of meeting with the users and the operators and the tenants at the airport in this final way. And I really commend the entire agency, the staff, those of you involved in the rulemaking committee, and Tony for leading this effort as well. So with that, if there's no more discussion on this, do I have a motion to approve the vehicle pedestrian rules?
I'll make that motion. I move that we approve of the VPD rules OAR 738-050-0005 and 738-140 section 0020 as presented.
I
We
will
have a
second that.
motion, and we have a motion from Bill and a second from Jim. Alexis, can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Bill Gropp,
Aye.
Jim Knight,
Aye.
Sarah Lucas,
Aye.
Steve Nagy,
Aye.
Brian Prang,
Aye.
Jeff Pritchard, he is actually out on operation right now, so is he excused from this vote?
Yes.
And then Catherine Stevens is excused, and that would conclude our roll for that.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you to the staff. This has been a long time coming and a lot of effort on your part and a lot of listening and a lot of working with the tenants to make sure that this is something is workable for users of the airport.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right. Moving on to the agenda. And Tony, I think you kept us on time there. Thank you. Moving on in the agenda to Andrea with the core program update for grant cycle 11, as well as the ASAP report to the legislature. Good morning,
Great.
Andrea.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Vice Chair Nagy, and good morning, board members. Let's get my presentation up here. So as Vice Chair Nagy just mentioned, I'm going to provide a brief update on the core program and then requesting the board's approval of the annual ASAP report to the legislature. It's been quite a while since I've put these numbers up here at a board meeting, and so I just wanted to give you guys an update to show you where the core revenue has been going and where it is. So you can see there our outstanding grant obligations. We currently have 124 grants that are either in progress or waiting to be executed, with open obligations or grant funds for those at about $7 million. And then I just also wanted to share in the other table here, our total grant awards and amount awarded across the program. And last year went by without much fanfare, but it was our 10th cycle of the core program. And so you can see here, we've got 10 years of grants being provided to the public use airports in Oregon. 334 of them to be exact, and over $27 million has gone out to those airports. So I just wanted to show, that this program really does make an impact for Oregon's air transportation system. And it's just a pleasure to work with the program. I love getting to go out and meet with all the airport managers. And I like to say that I have the best job in the agency, in fact, often. And so I just really wanted to share that with you guys. The board members, of course, you have approved these grants every year. We have our Aviation Review Committee members from across the state that participate in reviews every year. And then, of course, our airport managers that are applying and the staff that help out with the program. And so just a big thank you to all of you as well. And then, of course, we've got coming up our 11th cycle, which will be opening up in October. And I did just send out the announcement yesterday, and the application period will open up October 12th and run through October 23rd. And then, of course, we do the Aviation Review Committee reviews, and then the applications will go to the board in February 2027 for approval of the new batch of grants. For this cycle, we have an estimated funding of $3 million. And you will note that is a little bit lower than our past few cycles. It has been actually going down a little bit the past few cycles. This year in particular, just in recognition of what was shared in Kristen's presentation, the reduction 35% to the core, or the core revenue. We want to make sure that we are keeping an amount in reserve for the program so that we can continue to have viable grant cycles while we may be receiving less revenue into that fund. So as of right now, we're looking at $3 million. We do consider the revenue that is collected through the end of the calendar year, so through December, which we will receive in January. And so I do always double check that before the final approvals to see if we are able to adjust the funding amount. So there always is that possibility, but right now we're looking at keeping it at that 3 million. And then the one other thing I wanted to mention is that I am going to be sending out a notification within the next couple of days to the primary contacts for the airports in our grant software. And I'll be requesting them to update who the users for their airport are to make sure that we just have good information in the system. And then instead of doing a single training that everyone can come and watch prior to the application period, I'll be sending out some role-based training materials so that can be geared exactly towards those roles in the systems to kind of help the people who are using it get more familiar with it. So that's just one little change for this cycle as well. So that is what I have for the update. Are there any questions on that before we move to the report to the legislature? All right. So again, this is our annual report that is required per Oregon Revised Statute 3190237. This is a summary of ASAP projects, so not just core, but the state-owned airport SOAR projects, as well as the ROAR projects, which is our closed grant program. We did just finally close out the last ROAR grant last year in 2025. So that program is officially completely closed out now. And then this report is due to the Joint Committee on Transportation by September 15th every year. If there are any questions, we can go ahead and discuss those now. Otherwise, I do have a draft motion up here.
Any questions for Andrea regarding the ASAP report to the legislature? Or anything about the upcoming core grant cycle? I will just say thank you, Andrea. I'm assuming other board members did receive the email about the process for and the dates for grant cycle for core. Appreciate that. And I believe you even in that email, and you didn't say it in your presentation, you will be at the OAMA conference, which is right in that time frame.
Correct.
To right before the process opens up. So if there are other airports who are interested in that, I'm sure they can talk to you about the process and get information about their applications.
Definitely.
So I wanted to put a little plug in there for you and your outreach. Thank you. Any other questions by anyone? All right. If not, do we have a motion from someone to approve the 2026 ASAP report to the legislature as presented?
Yes, Bill. I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 ASAP report to the legislator as presented.
Thanks, Bill.
Second that.
Thank you, Jim. So I have a motion from Bill and a second from Jim. Alexis, can you call the roll, please?
Yes. Bill Gropp,
Aye.
Jim Knight,
Aye.
Sarah Lucas,
Aye.
Steve Nagy,
Aye.
Brian Prang.
Aye.
Jeff Pritchard is still on his operation. Is he excused?
Yes, he's excused.
And then Catherine Stevens is excused. And that would conclude our roll call.
Correct. And I just want to lastly say about that, I do appreciate that we will have less in this next cycle. This is very much in line with what we just talked about with the budget. This is not where we want to be from an agency perspective. I think we all realize we want to be able to give out as much as possible to these airports to be able to match grants, to be able to apply for grants for resiliency or for development. And so I look forward to going back to future bienniums and cycles to be able to bring this level back up where it's been. But 3 million will still be an excellent amount for Oregon State airports to be able to match FAA grants, to be able to do resiliency projects or economic development projects as well. So though it will be less, it's something we have to live through for this biennium. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jim, you had a comment as well?
Yes, Steve, I just want to say how remarkable this program has grown and really what an outstanding work that the staff has done. I remember back to the very first time that we had the opportunity to vote on core grants and how we developed that whole process. And I'm just amazed, Andrea, how far it's come along and what a good job that you've done in presenting the history of these grants and the impact that it's had on the airport industry in Oregon. So thank you to all of the staff for really a very successful program.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah, when you think about all the money that those dollars have been leveraged against for other federal grants, it's phenomenal.
And I think of all of the tears and joy that we've gone through in making really tough decisions on who gets what grants, and yet the program still is sustaining itself and it still is working well. So it's a very great privilege to have been a part of this process.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Andrea. We'll move on to the next section here of board updates. This is the time for members to share news, events, or related information and inputs from any previous work session. I'll just start off by saying I know August is air show season in Oregon. I believe the international, the one in McMinnville, is in not this weekend, but the following weekend. And then towards the end of the month, I think is the Cascades show in Madras. So it's the season, if you like flying, to get out there and see it. So I'll just start off with that. Anybody else have any updates from your region, your airports, your communities?
Yeah, I'll go. With the fire on Mount Hood and Central Oregon and Prineville areas, our airports have been extremely busy, and it just highlights the importance of infrastructure across the state, especially east of the Cascades, as these things can really grow quickly. Our airports are slammed with firefighting aircraft. We've set records with how much jet that we've filled into these aircraft to keep them moving. And the Hood River community is on edge. It's for historic landmarks like the Timberline Lodge, that kind of stuff at risk. It's all hands on deck out here.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I know that there have been real issues of ensuring that fuel supplies are getting to those airports in order to keep those firefighting aircraft, whether they're using avgas or Jet A, making sure that we're getting fuel distributed throughout Oregon and not running into any shortages at airports. Yeah, that's been a big challenge across the state. Sarah.
Well, I'm glad I let Brian go first because I can just say I echo his comments. Out here in Union County, our airport has been extremely busy fighting fires, as well as Joseph, Baker, Ontario, John Day with the helicopters. So it definitely is. It's unfortunate you all weren't able to come out here today. I completely understand. We did have our county commissioner has been listening in on the call. So appreciate Commissioner Andrews for that. And again, it is fire season, so be smart out there, people.
Thank you. Yeah, and I reiterate know we want to talk this in the kind of closing comments, but we want to come out to and shift a meeting to LeGrand for our 27 calendar. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning. Sorry I'm a little late with all the talk about fire operations. Been actively involved. In terms of update, I thought it was very important to pass on to the aviation community. Oregon made a huge investment this year in a multi-mission aircraft. It's a Twin Otter that has significant capabilities for providing the products to the firefighters on the ground. I had the pleasure of working out of that aircraft for the last week. It has a multispectral sensor on it and a pretty powerful, I would say, military grade FLIR sensor that we use to share images to the firefighters on the ground. And it also helps us find and detect fires after lightning storms, as well as, the spot fires on the big incidents. So, if anything, I think it's important for everyone in Oregon to understand what some of those resources are, because they are a public safety investment. And thanks to Sarah and her team, they've been definitely doing yeoman's work, trying to battle all of the challenges that we've got out there. Unprecedented year, and again, I apologize for being late, but this year is really kind of made it difficult for all of us. End of report.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Thanks for representing, all the teams and folks who are out on the front line right now today and have been for weeks. Please stay safe, and thank you very much for all your efforts as well.
Well, one other quick anecdote, definitely need to throw a shout out to all of the operators out there that are working the FBOs and maintaining the airports, because it does help our crew. I know Hood Aero is basically taking care of that multi-mission aircraft that's been operating out of Prineville, providing a space and helping out there. So it's as Brian said, the impact to the airports is significant, and without the entire aviation community rallying around that, we wouldn't be as successful as we are in trying to protect property and life. So again, sorry for that go back.
No, thank you. And it's across not just the aircraft, but the entire aviation industry really stepping up, like you said, from FBO operators to system providers to drone operators. There's a real reason that aviation has this tremendous value for both not just everyday or for commercial applications, but hugely in this emergency management space. Jim.
Just a comment for thought would be, Jeff, it would be so helpful and I think informative. And Steve, I think that you would agree that if we had, after the firefighting season is over with, it would be an awesome experience for not only us as a board member, but those that listen in and all our operators to kind of get an overview of what happened during this last fire season. What was the impacts? What were the challenges that you had to overcome? How much resources were put into this? We get bits and pieces through the news, of course, of areas that are in distress at that moment. But we don't really hear at the end of all of that is, how much manpower was used, how many aircraft were used in fighting various fires, and this has been a particularly bad season. So just planting a seed for us to think about how could we present an overview to the aircraft community after the fire season of really what took place and what was accomplished. And I could go on and on about the different things that I think would be important for us for folks to hear about. So thank you for that moment.
Yeah, it's very good. That's our next topic is really, future agendas and future inputs for staff. And I think that'd be an excellent thing if ODAV staff at the end of this season could work with forestry department staff and really kind of get a summary and recap, and we can demonstrate the value of the aviation system in this type of emergency response. Sarah.
Yes.
Yes, so to piggyback on that topic, I'm getting some information from our commissioner right now, so I apologize. I'll be reading off of my phone to make sure I relay it correctly. But to your point, Union County did have a record this year at 26,000 gallons of jet fuel in one day to support firefighting operations. And he just forwarded me an email that is discussing the city of Portland's proposal to have a 20% reduction in fuel storage capacity at the critical energy infrastructure hub. So I believe that that would be a very appropriate time to also discuss that impact, not only how that would be in the metro area, but statewide that would have impacts on fire response in rural communities and how that plays into the same issues Jim was just discussing.
Absolutely. And I think that'd be a great topic for us to take up and be able to weigh in from the department's perspective, from the board's perspective. Sorry, not Kenji, not for your department, but from the board's perspective on the value of that critical energy infrastructure hub for supporting not just everyday use, but especially in and around emergency operations. Right now, it's about fire, but it could be just as easily about a seismic event and how the value that these airports are going to have in the coastal and in the valley regions, just the same way that the airports are having that huge value right now in the Cascade and in the Eastern Oregon regions. So yeah, I think that's a great place for us. Again, we're kind of wandering into the next topic here about future things for us to do, but I think that's really a great idea. I totally support that as well.
Steve, quick thing for you. I think we signed on to a letter with the port, or actually supported your position on that CEI hub and that piece too. So I just want to get that out there as well. So we can definitely provide the board with that information to actually put a statement out if the board desires to do so. So just to let you know, it is an item we are tracking.
Thanks. And yeah, Kenji's in my other role, yes, the Port of Portland has been very active with the city of Portland, explaining the value of that critical energy infrastructure hub for the aviation system. Basically, it's our only portal for the state of Oregon, and everything else is then, comes out of there and is distributed throughout the state. So it's not just a metro, it has not just value to the metro area, but it has value to the entire state, all the way to the Eastern Oregon and Southern Oregon borders. Yep. Tony, I see your hand up. Sorry, we passed over you here.
No, I lowered my hand so I wouldn't interrupt this discussion. I just wanted to answer before the meeting ended Sarah's question about the runway length at Oak Ridge.
Oh. And?
Well, I'm going to share my screen again real quick. I took this other image, this bottom portion off of AirNav. This is our published information in the master record for Oak Ridge. And we don't have declared distances, or we didn't have declared distances at Oak Ridge. We had a runway length of 3610 by 47 feet. So now we have 50 feet, and the longest distance is 3,640. So staff have already sent the updates or the edits to the master record. So look for, the unsealed longitudinal and transverse cracking along full length of runway. Look for that comment to go away. The asphalt in poor condition, and then just for the rest of this information to be just updated. But I was partly confused because we had a declared distance previous to the project at Prospect, but at Oak Ridge we didn't, because even though the taxiway wasn't at the end of the runway, you can see we just didn't have any declared distances. So just wanted to get that answer out there.
Thank you, Tony. Yeah, and now look forward to the next publication cycle from the FAA when that information is updated. So great, glad to know you guys sent that in as well.
Yep.
Any
Thanks.
other updates from individuals, from anybody? All right, then any other new business this is the time for the board or the staff to bring up topics not on the agenda, or we can talk about certainly future. I think definitely we've talked about visiting LeGrand as part of our cycle of visits. And I know we take this up usually later in the year about the upcoming year, but given Oak Ridge's recent reconstruction, I don't even know if there's places to stay there, but it would be awesome to visit the airport at some point in the coming year. Just from my perspective, I don't know. We can talk about that at a later time.
Steve, we're planning to visit the airport this October.
Awesome. Okay. Any other business topics not on the agenda?
Well, Steve, one more thing. We do plan on having a ribbon cutting ceremony in September. So keep your eye out. We'd love to have folks come out to help celebrate the reopening of the airport, and we will give you more details. Alexis had her hand up and is probably going to explain that as well.
Awesome. Alexis, you were going to probably explain it.
Yeah, so we will be hosting, as Kenji said, we'll be hosting a ribbon cutting at the Oak Ridge State Airport just to celebrate the massive achievement that airport is. We're hoping to have in attendance some city manager, senators, legislators, and all of those things, and we're really hoping that it'll be a really great event.
Do you have a save of the date on that?
Currently, I know that we were talking about it happening on September 23rd, which is a Wednesday. But there was also discussion of, and I haven't had a chance to, well, actually, yeah, September 23rd. Yes. Is the current date.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, any other business? Otherwise, we can move on to agenda inputs for the future. I think it was said well that from Jim as and reiterated by others, it'd be really great to hear from staff after fire season, kind of with maybe even again, forestry department's input, kind of a wrap up of the season, the value of the airports, and also the value of being able to provide energy and fuel to these remote airports in order to, the value that what the critical infrastructure hub plays in getting jet fuel to these remote airports. So I think that'd be beneficial for us to hear. Jim?
I think it would be really a good idea if we would tie in the impacts of the grant money that's received through the core program, of what those impacts were and how critically important it was, particularly when we're making the connection to the ability of airports to serve firefighting community to save our state. So I think there would be a very good nexus about how those funds are used and directly impact our ability to fight fires.
Good. That's a good point. Good input. Anyone else? Any other inputs for future agendas? All right. The next board meeting is September 3rd. Again, it will be a team. I'm sorry, Alexis?
Did you want to discuss rescheduling LeGrand?
We can do that now, yeah. Or do we normally a little later in the year talk about the future of all of the upcoming year and kind of set an agenda and time? I mean, I think what we said is, yes, we want to put LeGrand on the agenda or on the visit schedule for 2027. The exact time, I think we should do that when we kind of prioritize the statewide visits for the year. Is that okay?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, since you had asked for the rescheduling to be on the agenda, so I just wanted to make sure that we hit that topic if you wanted to do it. We typically will set this schedule sometime in October. Is when we would,
I think, for us. Yeah.
Yeah, my suggestion would be to do it early on in the year next year.
Okay.
To avoid fire season.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Okay. With that, like I said, the next meeting date is September 3rd. It'll be a Teams meeting. If there's no other inputs, we can adjourn today's session. Anyone else? Nothing? Thank you all. Stay safe out there. And thank you to Jeff. Please stay safe, and we'll see you all next month.
Okay, can you adjourn, like state the meeting is adjourned?
Yeah, sorry, I did not say that exactly that way. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Alexis, for keeping us on track.